Good afternoon. My name is Melissa Manuel. This is Module 10, discussion on ethics, spirituality, and supporting clients in addiction recovery. In the evaluation of my personal beliefs, it enabled me to have better self understanding regarding my mindset toward mental health, including respect for openness and empathy. Some of the values are pretty universal, especially given that I'm a member of a larger society in my community or in the world, and it encompass the aspect of providing care for those with mental health problems and substance abuse disorders. I've realized there's a gap between my values and those of the clients that that I'm working with. For example, or for instance, I believe that spirituality is a significant component that needs to be addressed in some therapies, and some clients may not have interest in spirituality, even if they have psychological or emotional problems. So when you're dealing with those kind of things, even though you may feel that it's a vital aspect of them in recovery, they may not have the same feeling. So when dealing with clients, one feels privileged to work with people of different backgrounds. Respecting those differences requires one to respect them. So by respecting the person, you can respect the differences that they share in how they get to their recovery. In the same way, the APA, Council of Representatives to 2017, notes that practitioners should understand cultural and individual differences and not impose personal values that will potentially cause harm in the process of the client therapist relationship. This is especially true in the case when a client can have different opinions regarding spirituality and recovery in the counseling process related to addiction. I think that's important for me to remember as a therapist, that just because I have a spiritual background does not necessarily mean that others have or are even willing. I do feel like, being able to offer the opportunity is what we're as Christians are compelled to do. So leaving it, but if they're not unwilling to accept, being able to not impose my own personal opinions or I guess my own personal opinions on them. The article by Snodgrass, 2024, is quite informative about the part played by spirituality and recovery from substance abuse. The author suggests that there are benefits of spiritual motivation and well-being, but spiritual issues must be approached clinically, ethically, and purposefully. That they state that the therapist should respect the client's choice of therapy to embrace an individual's brand of spirituality. There's so many different paths and ways to reach a spiritual path, so that being able to allow that person to go through that journey is important. Most research must be conducted to establish the best practice for the approach, for effectiveness, and to develop the best treatment approach. So oftentimes we have to make sure that we understand that how we may have found spirituality may be different from a person that now chooses to find it through this recovery process. So I liken it unto like meditation, right? Some people don't feel like I can just sit and rehearse things over and over or things like that. That we give them their own way, their own ability to find their way to their recovery through spirituality. I think AA, in our previous thing when we were talking about the AA sessions, I think that it allows those type of sessions allow a person to be able to come to their own, system or their own process in how they seek recovery. I think as therapists, unless I, have decided to become a Christian therapist, and that's what they're looking for, is their spiritual guidance, that limiting or being able to not impose scriptural background or scriptural basis for what they're doing may be the best option, because it allows them to choose their own way instead of me. You know how sometimes we can get into a position of preaching or, giving a person scriptures that would become, overbearing for them. So I think, as we discover this, being able to understand our role and responsibility as therapists and being ethically sound is a very important practice that we must approach to be effective for our clients. So as the author suggests, looking at how motivated spiritually that person is will kind of help us direct in how we lead with spirituality. So that is my information. The article that I use is Spirituality and Addiction Recovery, and I will post that in the chat as well. Thank you for listening.